The definition of a decentralized system, at least to me, is there's no off switch. So once there's no off switch, and the two best examples of that I know of are BitTorrent, which was probably the first, besides the internet itself, but BitTorrent, and the second being Bitcoin. You can't shut off either. I would posit there's no way to shut off either of those services today. And I think Ethereum is close, and I think it can get there, but not quite yet. But I think it's moving in that direction, even with proof of stake. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's not decentralized, blah, blah, blah. So these DeFi services aren't quite D yet. Shut off Amazon Web Services and you'll see what I mean. But I think in 3 or 4 years, there will be no more off switch. And at that point, to your question, what role does a regulator play if you can't shut something off anyway? Because there's nobody to go to and say, you're doing it wrong, you're not following the rules, shut it off. Right. The analogy I liked with BitTorrent was they couldn't shut BitTorrent off. So the music industry started going after individual named users based upon IP addresses, with these RIA lawsuits. And they realized what a great idea that was after a few months and stopped doing it. Right. After everybody started hating the music industry. Right. So I just don't see, regulators starting to sue or go after individual users of these services. And at that point, there's nothing they can do.
The only point of fragility that I keep trying to think through the fragilities as we get to that end state. The only point of fragility is your ability to interact with the existing banking system.
That's right. 100%.
So if you want to bring money back into the US because you want to buy a house, car, pay your taxes or whatever, they still own that.
Yeah.
That can make it very awkward still. They can just say,
totally.
Well, if you've come out of these protocols or wherever it is, you can't bring it back in.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. Like if you look at what's happening in India, the discussions in Nigeria, it's about the on-ramps and off-ramps. Even China doesn't say, hey, we're not going to allow you to store ones and zeros in your pocket, which is like saying, banning Bitcoin, right? They're going to say, we're going to basically regulate the on-ramps and off-ramps and prevent you from transacting. And we're going to prevent third parties from acting as trusted third parties that hold your crypto. That's the best they can do, right? And so it's going to be those on-ramps and off-ramps that are basically going to be the choke point for a lot of this innovation going forward. And some will get it and become centers of innovation. Some will put roadblocks in the way. Like I think India has 180 degrees the opposite perspective on this. They could become a mecca of innovation for banking and crypto if they would just do a 180 on their ridiculous perspective on continually banning crypto and then having the Supreme Court overturn what they're doing. Why somebody doesn't get held in contempt for trying to do the same thing over and over again, I don't know. But put that aside, I really do think they have it completely wrong.
Yeah, because India's actually digitized pretty rapidly.
Yes.
They built this layer on with the open APIs to their UPI payment system and the India stack, and they've got something really powerful.
Right. I mean, I would look, the countries that should be like, I kind of look at it like, how do we leapfrog the West, right? I mean, go look at the train systems in countries that leapfrogged us, right? Because they built their trains in the 90s, right? Well, what about banking? Why isn't Indonesia or India basically saying, let's move our economy to this model over 20 years? And if they came out and said that, I think people would move there to work on this. And as opposed to the opposite, which is people leaving to go work, less so in the pandemic, but euphemistically speaking, moving to work on these projects that are based in other countries. And I think this is a huge opportunity to reverse that trend.
What about the trend that came out, Mnuchin's last famous thing of trying to push through the regulation of KYC on wallets and holdings? How do you think that plays out?
I think that was very misguided. And I think my understanding is even a lot of people at FinCEN, which is the regulatory body within Treasury that deals with that, probably considered that misguided based upon the hearsay from my network. And I think it was a feeble kind of last minute attempt in the last administration to exert control over something that is basically uncontrollable. I mean, look, the Supreme Court has opined on software and software's role as free speech. And I think the way we think about CIP, customer identification processes in banking as it relates to the Bank Secrecy Act is completely out of whack. Nobody challenges it because nobody wants to be the one that everybody's afraid, right? To take this to court. But I just don't see how the extreme that we do in banking is actually legal in this country, but everybody's afraid to fight it. I'm not going to spend our investors' money fighting it. I'm just going to follow the rules because I don't know what else to do, right? And our customers accept it because they have to do it with every other service they use. I think that there's going to be more attempts at this. I do worry a little bit about the new administration, but I think ultimately they're going to lose. And I think, you see it like with Miami, right? You've heard about like the mayor of Miami. You see it in what's happening in Wyoming, a little bit in Texas. There are pockets of people that get it, and eventually it's going to spread, right? And I don't think when I say it's going to spread, I mean this understanding that you can't stop it, that we should embrace it, and that it has value is going to spread like wildfire. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. So switching gears a bit, your app has been running for how long now? It's quite a long time.
Well, the current version is about 2 years old, but we had an earlier version which was non-custodial. Now we have the kind of traditional custodial version, which is about 2 years old.
So when you've onboarded new customers and your existing customers, what change of behavior have you seen? Because in the last 2 years, we've had yield. Monumental, right? There's all of these things. What have you seen? What are people doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple of huge changes we've seen, even over the last 6 months, I would say. The first is the amount of crypto deposits that we get off of exchanges onto Abra has gone from being 15% of our business 15 months ago to being 60 to 70% of our business today. Meaning I bought Bitcoin at Coinbase or Kraken, and it's just sitting there. I want to earn yield on it. I want to potentially borrow against it in the future. I hear Abra is a great way to do that. I'm checking out Abra. I look at it. I was like, wow, this app's amazing. I didn't know you could do all this with crypto. I'm not really a trader. There's really no reason for me to leave this crypto on an exchange. That is, our business for those users is booming, right? And it's millions every day flocking in. And so we still get the bank wires. We take unlimited bank wires from every country in the world. And that's great. It's for people who are also existing users moving money in. A lot of times I just say, I'm going to put even more in because I can earn 10% on my dollars and 5% of my crypto. And so we get people who do both. But one of the biggest changes is clearly the amount of crypto-based deposits we're getting. Even though we allow you to buy,